This is
Can't
incredible
stop
stuff right
laughing.
there.
See the results of this
All right,
hilarious
everyone, smile for the
experiment.
camera. Looking good.
She loved
Thank
noticing
you.
small details. How someone's eyes would light up when they smiled. How a sigh could reveal so much about a person's mood. And most importantly, how laughter could travel like a spark, spreading from one person to another. Emma had always been fascinated by laughter. She believed it had a magical quality, something that could instantly lift a person's mood, even on the darkest of days. But she wanted to prove it. She wanted to see, in real life, how laughter could spread and affect a group of people. It all started one ordinary afternoon when Emma sat in the campus cafeteria, sipping her favorite caramel latte. She noticed a small group of students sitting at a nearby table. One of them told a silly story about a pet cat that had accidentally knocked over a vase. At first, only one student chuckled, but soon, the entire table was laughing so hard that their drinks almost spilled. Emma's curiosity piqued. She wondered, could laughter really be contagious outside of a casual chat? Could it be measured, observed, and studied in real life? The idea took root in her mind like a tiny seed that grew quickly into a full-blown plan. Emma wanted to conduct an experiment, but not the kind that involved complicated equipment or endless surveys. She wanted something simple, real, and fun. She wanted to see if laughter could start with just one person and spread to strangers, people who had never met before. She imagined the excitement of capturing that moment on camera, seeing the genuine, spontaneous reactions of people as they laughed together. Emma couldn't do this alone, so she called her three closest friends, Mia, Liam, and Noah, to help her plan the experiment. They gathered in Emma's small, cozy apartment, which smelled faintly of fresh coffee and lavender. Emma explained her idea with sparkling enthusiasm. "I want to see if one person's laughter can make an entire room laugh," she said. "We'll set up a small experiment in a public place, maybe a cafe or a library. Nothing too serious, just a fun test. I'll even record it for study purposes." Her friends listened, intrigued and slightly amused. "You're serious?" Liam asked, raising an eyebrow. "You mean like laughing on purpose and seeing if it spreads?" "Yes," Emma replied, her eyes wide with excitement. "We'll make it like a small performance. I'll be the first one to laugh, and we'll see how long it takes for others to catch it. We can even take notes on their reactions." Mia, ever the practical one, frowned slightly. "But how will you make sure people don't think it's weird or forced? We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable." Emma had already thought of that. "We'll tell them it's a mindfulness activity. People always participate in those willingly. We'll ask them to try a relaxation exercise, and I'll slip in the laughter naturally. No one will know it's an experiment about laughter until afterward." Noah laughed softly. "This is insane, but I think it's brilliant. You might actually learn something about how humans connect. Plus, it'll be hilarious." And so, the plan began to take shape. They decided on a local coffee shop that was cozy, well-lit, and usually not too crowded. Emma called the owner and explained that she wanted to conduct a small, harmless study on people's reactions to a relaxation activity. The owner, amused and curious, agreed. Emma's heart leapt with excitement. Everything was falling into place. Over the next few days, Emma and her friends prepared for the experiment with meticulous care. They practiced ways to start laughter naturally, using funny stories, silly voices, and exaggerated expressions. Emma even created a short, light-hearted script to follow so that she could guide the participants without making the situation feel forced. She practiced in front of the mirror, noticing how a small giggle could quickly turn into a bigger laugh if delivered with the right energy. She realized that laughter was not just a sound, it was a language of joy, an invitation for others to join in. On the morning of the experiment, Emma could barely contain her excitement. She arrived at the coffee shop early, armed with a small camera hidden in a corner of the room and a notebook to record observations. She took a deep breath and looked around. The sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the warm wooden tables and the soft hum of the espresso machine. Everything looked perfect. One by one, the participants arrived. They were strangers, brought together by the promise of a simple relaxation activity. Emma greeted each of them with a warm smile, making them feel welcome and at ease. Some seemed tense, rubbing their hands nervously or glancing around the room with curiosity. Others appeared relaxed, chatting quietly among themselves. Emma made mental notes of their expressions, anticipating how each person might respond when the laughter began. Finally, it was time. Emma gathered everyone's attention and began the exercise. She asked them to close their eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and imagine a peaceful scene. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft sound of breathing. Then, as she transitioned into the next part of the activity, she told a silly little story about a talking dog who wanted to be a chef. At first, only a small giggle escaped her lips. It was almost imperceptible, but it was enough to break the initial tension. Emma watched closely. One participant's lips twitched into a smile, then another let out a soft chuckle. The sound was like a tiny ripple in a pond, spreading slowly but surely. Emma felt her own laughter rising, unable to resist the growing energy in the room. Soon the giggles multiplied. The room began to hum with quiet laughter, and then, almost as if by magic, one participant burst into a full laugh, followed by another, until the entire room was laughing together. Emma's heart raced with excitement. This was exactly what she had hoped for. The laughter was contagious, spreading effortlessly from one person to another. She noticed how even the most reserved participants couldn't help but join in. Their faces lit up with joy, their eyes sparkling with amusement. The atmosphere transformed from tense and quiet to vibrant and joyful. Emma could hardly believe it. Her experiment was working perfectly. As the laughter continued, Emma's mind raced with ideas. She wanted to capture every detail, the way people's shoulders shook, the sounds of their laughter, the way their expressions changed. She scribbled notes furiously in her notebook, careful not to miss a single reaction. She realized that this was more than just a fun experiment. It was a real demonstration of human connection. Laughter was not just entertainment. It was a bridge between people, a shared experience that could bring strangers together in a moment of pure joy. By the time the laughter subsided, Emma felt a warm sense of accomplishment. She had set out to prove something simple, yet powerful, and she had succeeded. She looked around the room at the smiling faces, grateful that she had created this small moment of happiness. It was more than just an experiment. It was a celebration of laughter itself. As the participants left, many thanked her and commented on how much fun they had. Some said they felt lighter, happier, and more connected to the people around them. Emma smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. She knew this was only the beginning. There were so many more experiments to try, so many more ways to explore the power of laughter. But for now, she was content. She had sparked joy in a group of strangers, and that was a feeling she would never forget. Emma left the coffee shop that day with a heart full of happiness. She knew that laughter was more than just a sound. It was a force that could change moods, create bonds, and brighten even the dullest of days. And she was determined to continue exploring it, one giggle at a time. After the first part of her experiment, Emma was more excited than ever. She realized that laughter was not just a simple reaction. It was a force that could bring people together, even strangers. But she also knew that to really understand it, she needed to take things further. Part 2 of her plan was all about setting the perfect scene and observing the participants more closely. She wanted to see not just how laughter spread, but how people reacted in real life, in small, natural moments. Emma and her friends, Mia, Liam, and Noah, spent the following week preparing carefully. They discussed everything in detail, from how to invite participants to the subtle ways they could encourage laughter without forcing it. Mia suggested they make the experiment more interactive, so people would feel involved rather than just watching. Liam was in charge of notes and observations, making sure every reaction was recorded. Noah volunteered to handle the camera equipment and ensure everything was captured clearly, without making participants feel watched. Emma coordinated everything like a director, excited and determined to make the experiment work perfectly. They decided to conduct the next part in a slightly different location, a small community library that allowed them to use a quiet reading room. The room was bright, with sunlight streaming through the tall windows. It was filled with comfortable chairs and wooden tables. The atmosphere was calm, almost serene, which Emma thought would make the contrast of laughter even more noticeable. Participants would come in expecting a peaceful experience, and then, slowly, the laughter would begin to ripple through the room. On the day of the experiment, Emma arrived early to set up. She checked the hidden camera, tested the microphone, and placed her notebook in a spot where she could quickly jot down observations. Her friends arrived soon after, carrying small props to make the session more playful, silly hats, colorful scarves, and even a few funny books. Emma smiled to herself. Even small details like a bright scarf or a goofy story could make people laugh more easily. She wanted to create a situation that felt light and natural. The participants started arriving. Some were young adults, curious about the mindfulness and relaxation study. Others were older, looking for a small break from their busy day. Emma greeted each one warmly, making sure they felt comfortable. Some participants looked nervous, fidgeting with their hands or glancing around the room. Others smiled easily, chatting with Emma and her friends as they waited. Emma paid close attention to their expressions, noting subtle signs of tension or excitement. She wanted to understand each participant as fully as possible before the laughter began. Once everyone had settled into the chairs, Emma began the session. She asked participants to close their eyes for a few moments and take deep, calming breaths. The room was quiet except for the gentle sound of inhaling and exhaling. Emma guided them through a simple visualization exercise, asking them to imagine a peaceful garden filled with colorful flowers, soft sunlight, and gentle birdsong. Most participants seemed to relax, their shoulders dropping, their faces softening. Emma smiled inwardly. This was exactly what she had hoped for. People needed a calm, neutral start so that the laughter could emerge naturally without feeling forced. Then came the moment Emma had been waiting for. She told a short, silly story about a clumsy cat who thought it could play the piano. At first, she added only a small giggle, barely audible. It was subtle, just enough to break the quiet tension in the room. She watched closely, noticing how one participant's lips twitched into a small smile. Another participant's eyes widened and a soft chuckle escaped. Slowly, the laughter began to spread, like a gentle ripple across a still pond. Emma's own laughter grew as she observed the reactions. She felt a warm, bubbling joy rising inside her. The room started to transform. Participants who had arrived stiff and nervous were now leaning forward, their faces brightening. A few tried to hold back their laughter, but soon, one person couldn't resist and let out a loud, infectious laugh. That single laugh acted like a spark, and within seconds, others joined in. The room was filled with a symphony of laughter, soft at first, then growing louder and louder. Emma noticed something fascinating. Some participants laughed quietly at first, covering their mouths with their hands, but the more they heard others laugh, the more they allowed themselves to let go. Even those who had seemed serious or reserved at the beginning couldn't help but join in. Emma realized that laughter was not just an individual reaction, it was social. It was a way for people to connect, even without words. As the laughter continued, Emma and her friends took careful notes. Liam scribbled down observations about which participants laughed first, who was the most hesitant, and how long it took for the laughter to spread across the room. Noah checked the camera feed, making sure every moment was recorded clearly. Mia moved around the room subtly, offering props or funny prompts to keep the energy alive. Emma felt like a conductor of a joyful orchestra, guiding the music of laughter without forcing it. The participants' reactions were priceless. Some doubled over in laughter, clutching their stomachs as tears of joy appeared in their eyes. Others leaned back in their chairs, trying to catch their breath, their faces red from the sheer effort of laughing. Emma noticed that even when the laughter slowed, smiles remained on people's faces. It was clear that the experiment was doing more than creating temporary amusement. It was lifting moods, creating a sense of shared happiness. At one point, Emma decided to add a small twist. She asked participants to imagine something funny about a familiar situation, like a clumsy neighbor or a silly childhood memory. The room erupted again, this time with laughter fueled not just by Emma's stories but by participants' own imagination. Emma realized that laughter could be self-reinforcing. Once people allowed themselves to laugh, it became easier to continue, to find humor in even small, everyday ideas. By the time the session ended, Emma felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had not only sparked laughter, but observed the incredible way it spread from person to person. The participants left with smiles on their faces, chatting among themselves and thanking Emma for the experience. Some commented on how unexpected it was to feel so happy after only a short session. Others said they felt lighter, more relaxed, and more connected to the people around them. Emma took mental notes of each comment, knowing they would be valuable for analyzing her experiment. Afterward, Emma and her friends sat together in the now empty room, discussing what they had observed. "It's amazing," Mia said, still smiling. "Some people were so shy at first, but by the end they were laughing the loudest." Liam nodded. "And the way the laughter spread, it's like a chain reaction. You start with one spark and suddenly everyone is part of it." Noah added, "I love how natural it all felt. It wasn't forced, and that's what made it so special. People genuinely enjoyed it, and that's the real result." Emma leaned back, her heart full. She realized that laughter was not just a simple response. It was a powerful connector, something that could break down barriers between strangers, create joy, and even improve well-being. The experiment was no longer just about proving a point. It was about experiencing the magic of laughter in real life. As they packed up their equipment, Emma made a quiet promise to herself. She would continue exploring this phenomenon, finding new ways to share laughter and joy with others. She wanted to show the world that even small moments of shared happiness could have a big impact. And most importantly, she wanted to remember this day. The day laughter had filled a room, lifted hearts, and connected strangers in a way that felt truly magical. After 2 successful sessions, Emma knew the real test was just beginning. She had seen how laughter spread in small groups and quiet settings, but she wanted to push the experiment further. Part 3 would explore laughter in a slightly larger, more dynamic environment, one where people didn't know each other and weren't expecting any activity at all. Emma was excited and a little nervous. She understood that this step would be more unpredictable, but she was ready for the challenge. She decided to return to a popular cafe, one that was busy but not overwhelmingly crowded. Its cozy atmosphere and friendly staff made it perfect for her experiment. Unlike the controlled environment of the library, this space would have more natural distractions, people reading, chatting, or sipping their coffee. Emma thought carefully about how to introduce laughter in a way that felt spontaneous. It needed to appear natural, playful, and inviting, not staged or forced. Emma arrived early that morning with her friends Mia, Liam, and Noah. They brought along their usual tools, a hidden camera, props for playful interaction, and a notebook for careful observations. But this time, Emma added a few new elements. She carried a small basket of amusing cards with funny scenarios written on them. She hoped these cards could spark laughter among participants who might be shy or hesitant. She wanted to create multiple opportunities for humor, so the laughter could grow organically. As the cafe filled with morning customers, Emma felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She chose a small table in the center of the room and greeted each volunteer warmly, explaining that they were participating in a short mindfulness activity designed to explore creativity and relaxation. The participants were a mix of ages, backgrounds, and personalities. Some looked relaxed and curious, while others appeared unsure about what to expect. Emma noticed small signs of tension, fidgeting hands, nervous glances, or quiet sighs, but she was confident that her plan could break through. The session began calmly, with Emma guiding the participants through a simple breathing exercise. She asked them to close their eyes for a moment, focus on their breath, and imagine a peaceful scene. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of conversation from other cafe patrons. Emma took mental notes of each participant's body language. Some leaned back with eyes closed, clearly relaxed. Others sat upright, tense and alert. This mix of responses would make the experiment even more interesting, she thought. Once the participants were settled, Emma carefully introduced the first element of humor. She read aloud a short, silly story about a penguin who tried to ride a bicycle. At first, she only added a tiny chuckle, barely audible. One participant's lips twitched, then another participant let out a soft giggle. Emma smiled to herself. She could feel the ripple of laughter beginning to spread. Then something magical happened. One participant, a young man named Alex, couldn't hold back and burst into full laughter. His laugh was loud, genuine, and contagious. It caught the attention of everyone at the table. Slowly, others began to laugh too. It started as soft chuckles, but soon, the room was filled with the sound of genuine, unstoppable laughter. Emma watched in awe as strangers who had only just met each other shared a moment of pure joy. She observed closely as the laughter spread. Some participants tried to stifle it, covering their mouths with their hands or leaning forward to hide their smiles. Others laughed freely, their heads thrown back and eyes sparkling with amusement. Emma noticed that once a few people laughed openly, the rest of the group quickly joined in. The energy in the room changed completely. What had started as a quiet, tense gathering transformed into a vibrant, lively scene of shared happiness. Emma and her friends recorded every reaction. Liam carefully noted which participants laughed first, who hesitated, and how the laughter escalated over time. Noah monitored the camera, ensuring that each moment was captured clearly without making anyone feel uncomfortable. Mia encouraged shy participants with gentle prompts, suggesting they share a funny memory or imagine a humorous scenario. Emma felt like a conductor of a joyful orchestra, guiding the rhythm and flow of laughter without forcing it. At one point, Emma decided to add another layer of humor. She handed out the small basket of funny scenario cards. Each participant chose a card and read it aloud. The results were immediate. A young woman named Sarah read a scenario about a talking squirrel trying to run a lemonade stand. The room erupted with laughter again. Even Alex, who had been laughing the hardest since the beginning, laughed until tears streamed down his cheeks. Emma noticed that laughter had now become self-sustaining. Once people allowed themselves to laugh, it became easier to continue, to find humor in even the simplest ideas. The reactions were priceless. Some participants laughed so hard that they leaned over the table, gasping for air. Others laughed quietly, shaking their heads in disbelief at how funny the stories were. Emma noticed that people who had arrived nervous or reserved now appeared relaxed and joyful. Their expressions glowed with happiness, and even the regular cafe patrons nearby smiled as they watched the contagious laughter spread. Emma realized that the impact of laughter extended beyond the immediate participants. It could touch anyone within earshot, spreading joy in waves. Emma was particularly fascinated by how different personalities responded. Some participants laughed easily at the stories and scenarios, while others needed a small push, a funny expression, a shared glance, or a gentle nudge. She noticed that laughter was not just about humor, it was about connection, timing, and shared experience. When people felt safe, included, and open, their laughter became more genuine and powerful. It was a reminder that joy often grows best in a supportive environment. As the session continued, Emma experimented with small variations. She introduced exaggerated gestures, silly voices, and playful interactions between participants. Each adjustment caused bursts of laughter, creating a dynamic rhythm that seemed to flow naturally. Emma observed that the laughter was not only contagious but cumulative. The more participants laughed, the easier it became for others to join in. Even participants who had been quiet or hesitant at first eventually gave in to the growing energy in the room. By the end of the session, the cafe was filled with a sense of warmth and connection. Participants chatted happily with each other, laughing occasionally as they recalled the funny moments from the exercise. Some thanked Emma for creating such a joyful experience. A few said they felt lighter, happier, and more energized than they had in weeks. Emma smiled, realizing that the experiment had achieved something extraordinary. It was not just about observing laughter. It was about creating an environment where people could feel free to be happy and connected. After everyone left, Emma and her friends reviewed the recordings and notes. They laughed together as they watched the genuine reactions captured on camera. "It's incredible," Mia said, still smiling. "You can see how even small actions, like a tiny giggle, can spread so quickly." Liam nodded. "And it's amazing how quickly people let go." At first some were stiff and nervous, and then, boom, full laughter. "It's like magic." Noah added, "It's more than magic, it's science. You're showing how humans respond to joy, how they connect without even realizing it." Emma felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She realized that the experiment was not just a study, it was a celebration of laughter itself. She had witnessed the incredible power of joy, the way it could transform a room, break down barriers, and bring strangers together. Each laugh was a small victory, a reminder that happiness could be shared and multiplied. As they packed up their equipment, Emma thought about what she had learned so far. Laughter was contagious, yes, but it was also a bridge between people. It had the power to change moods, create connections, and even inspire creativity. The experiment had confirmed her belief that joy was not just a feeling, it was a force, one that could ripple through groups, communities, and even strangers who had never met before. Emma left the cafe that day with a heart full of excitement. She knew that there was still more to explore, more reactions to observe, and more ways to share the power of laughter. Part 3 of the experiment had been a resounding success, showing that joy could spread in even the most unexpected places. She couldn't wait to continue the journey and see where laughter would take them next. After the cafe experiment, Emma and her friends felt both exhausted and exhilarated. They had witnessed the contagious power of laughter in action, but Emma knew the journey was far from over. Part 4 of her plan was about reflection, observation, and discovering the true results of the experiment. This stage was crucial. She wanted to not only record the laughter itself, but understand its effects on mood, behavior, and human connection. Emma believed that laughter wasn't just fun, it had real power, and she was determined to prove it. The following morning, Emma sat at her desk surrounded by notebooks, printed photos from the hidden cameras, and piles of observation sheets. She sipped her coffee and began reviewing everything from the first 3 experiments. Each session had been unique, with different participants, environments, and reactions. Yet a clear pattern emerged. Laughter had a ripple effect. Even the smallest chuckle could trigger a wave of joy that spread quickly across a group. Emma felt a thrill of excitement. She knew that what she was observing wasn't random. It was a powerful human phenomenon waiting to be understood. Emma's friends joined her later that day to help analyze the data. Mia, Liam, and Noah gathered around, equally curious about what they had captured. "Look at this," Liam said, pointing to a video clip from the cafe session. On the screen, Alex, the young man who had laughed first, let out a loud, full-bodied laugh. Within seconds, the other participants' reactions followed. Soft giggles, smiles, then unstoppable laughter. "It's incredible," Mia said. "You can literally see the chain reaction happening." Emma nodded. "Exactly. And it's not just about laughing. Look at their faces before and after. Some were nervous or unsure at first, and by the end, they're glowing." Laughter doesn't just make people smile, it changes how they feel. Noah leaned back and added, "And notice how long the laughter lasts. It's not just one moment. Even after the story is over, people keep smiling and chuckling. It's like a lasting effect." Emma realized that the impact of laughter went deeper than she had imagined. She decided to organize the results into categories for a clearer understanding. She wanted to track how laughter spread, who reacted first, the intensity of reactions, and the overall mood changes. They labeled participants as initial responders, secondary responders, and late responders, noting how quickly each person joined in. This detailed observation revealed fascinating insights. Emma found that some participants were instant responders. They laughed at the first hint of humor, their expressions lighting up immediately. These were the people who helped kickstart the laughter wave, often unnoticed at first but crucial to its spread. Secondary responders were those who laughed after seeing the first group join in. They might start with a small smile or quiet chuckle before allowing themselves to fully engage. Late responders were the most reserved, often hesitant to laugh at first but eventually joining in once they felt the environment was safe and welcoming. The team noticed that even minor gestures could influence laughter. A simple smile, a funny expression, or a playful voice could push hesitant participants over the edge. Emma realized that humor alone was not the only factor. Human connection played a significant role. People laughed more easily when they felt included, when they could see others enjoying themselves, and when the environment felt friendly and safe. Laughter was both contagious and cooperative, a shared experience that required participation from everyone. Emma also observed that laughter had physical effects. Participants' shoulders relaxed, their faces softened, and their posture became more open. Some participants who had been tense or withdrawn suddenly seemed energized, almost lightened by the act of laughing. Others spoke more freely after the sessions, chatting comfortably with strangers and forming quick connections. Emma noted in her journal that laughter was not just a social tool but a mood regulator. It could reduce stress, release tension, and create a sense of well-being. Another surprising discovery was the unpredictability of laughter. Some participants laughed at moments Emma hadn't anticipated, triggered by tiny gestures, a shared glance, or even a pause in the storytelling. It reminded her that humor and joy could be spontaneous, emerging naturally rather than being forced. The experiment, she realized, was not just about controlling laughter. It was about creating opportunities for it to flourish. To make the results more compelling, Emma decided to analyze the participants' reactions collectively. She created a chart showing how laughter spread in each session. In the library experiment, laughter started slowly but grew steadily. In the cafe, it spread almost like wildfire, igniting people in waves. Emma compared the intensity, duration, and participants' mood changes across different settings. Patterns emerged that confirmed her initial hypothesis. Laughter was inherently contagious, but the environment, social cues, and shared energy greatly influenced its spread. Emma also noticed the ripple effect beyond the immediate participants. In the cafe, nearby customers who were not part of the experiment glanced at the laughter, smiled, or even joined in small ways. Some shared amused glances with friends, while others whispered comments or chuckled quietly to themselves. Emma realized that laughter could influence even those who were not directly involved, spreading joy like a subtle, invisible wave. It was proof that laughter could reach further than she had imagined, affecting people both inside and outside the immediate circle. The emotional impact on participants was equally remarkable. Emma had asked them to share their thoughts after the sessions, and many reported feeling uplifted, energized, and connected. Some mentioned that the experience had reminded them of childhood joy, playful innocence, or moments of genuine fun they had forgotten. Others commented on how surprising it was to laugh so freely with strangers, realizing that joy didn't require familiarity or permission, it only required openness. Emma's friends were equally amazed. "I didn't expect it to work this well," Noah admitted. "Seeing people light up like this, it's more than just an experiment. It feels like magic," Mia smiled. "It's not magic, it's real human connection. You created the conditions and they responded naturally. That's the beauty of it." Liam added thoughtfully, "And the results are clear. Laughter is powerful. It spreads, it connects, and it improves moods. That's something we can all use more of in our daily lives." Emma felt proud but also humbled. She realized that while her experiment had been carefully planned, it was the participants' genuine reactions that made it meaningful. Laughter was a shared experience, dependent on mutual engagement and openness. She had provided the spark, but the participants had created the fire. As the day ended, Emma wrote down her reflections. She noted that the experiment had confirmed several key insights. Laughter was contagious, social connection amplified its effects, the environment mattered, and joy could spread to those outside the immediate group. She also acknowledged the unpredictable and spontaneous nature of humor, which made each session unique and exciting. Emma knew that the results of the experiment were not just interesting, they were inspiring. Laughter, she realized, had the power to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It could bridge gaps between strangers, reduce stress, and create a sense of shared joy that lingered long after the initial moment had passed. By the time she closed her notebook, Emma felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The experiment had achieved more than she had hoped. It had proven that laughter was more than a sound. It was a force that could change moods, foster connection, and brighten lives. Emma smiled to herself, already imagining the next step, sharing these findings with the world and encouraging others to explore the joy of laughter in their own lives. After weeks of experiments, observations, and laughter-filled sessions, Emma finally reached the final part of her project. Part 5 was about reflection, sharing the results, and understanding the lasting impact of what she had discovered. She had observed firsthand the contagious power of laughter, the way it spread through groups, and how it transformed moods. Now she wanted to show others how something as simple as a smile or a giggle could make a real difference in people's lives. Emma began by reviewing all the data from the previous experiments. She looked through notes, videos, photos, and participants' feedback. Each session had been unique, yet the results were remarkably consistent. Laughter always began with a spark, someone daring to laugh first, and then spread in waves. She noticed patterns that confirmed her original hypothesis. Laughter was not only contagious but also influenced by social connection, environment, and shared energy. But the most important discovery wasn't scientific, it was human. Emma realized that laughter created bonds, eased tensions, and left people feeling happier than before. Excited to share her findings, Emma organized a small event at the university's community center. She invited participants from previous experiments, as well as new volunteers, to witness her final demonstration. The room was set up to be warm and inviting, with bright chairs arranged in a circle and colorful decorations that immediately lifted spirits. Emma wanted everyone to feel safe, comfortable, and ready to laugh without inhibition. Her friends, Mia, Liam, and Noah, were there to help organize, take notes, and manage the recording equipment. As the participants arrived, Emma greeted them with her signature warm smile. She noticed their curiosity and slight nervousness. Many of them remembered the previous sessions, some with excitement, others with cautious anticipation. Emma welcomed everyone, explaining that this final session was a celebration of what they had discovered together. She emphasized that the goal was not just to laugh, but to feel the joy that laughter could create in a shared space. The session began with a familiar mindfulness exercise, just like in previous experiments. Participants closed their eyes, took deep breaths, and imagined calm, peaceful scenes. The room was quiet, filled only with soft breathing and the occasional shuffle of a chair. Emma watched closely, noting who was relaxed, who seemed tense, and how everyone responded to the calm beginning. She knew that this quiet moment was crucial. It allowed the participants to let go of stress and prepare for the laughter that was about to come. Then Emma began her storytelling. She started with a simple, funny story about a clumsy robot trying to learn human dance moves. She added a small, gentle chuckle, barely noticeable at first. One participant, a young man named Daniel, smiled faintly, then let out a soft laugh. Another participant, a woman named Priya, chuckled quietly, covering her mouth in surprise. Emma could feel the energy in the room shifting. The laughter was starting again, slowly but surely, like a gentle wave building momentum. Emma encouraged participants to interact in small ways. She handed out cards with funny prompts and asked people to share their stories, silly observations, or exaggerated expressions. The room responded immediately. Laughter began to flow freely, bouncing from one person to another. What had been a quiet, calm space transformed into a lively, joyful environment. Participants leaned forward, waved their hands, and laughed with abandon. Even those who had been hesitant at first could not resist joining in. The most fascinating part, Emma noticed, was the way participants supported each other's laughter. A shy participant who hesitated at first received gentle smiles and nods from others, which encouraged them to let go. Laughter became collaborative, a shared experience that required connection and trust. Emma realized that the experiment had not only measured laughter, but also highlighted the human need for connection, acceptance, and shared joy. As the session progressed, the laughter grew louder and more infectious. Participants shared personal stories of humorous incidents, funny childhood memories, and silly observations. Each contribution sparked new waves of laughter, creating a dynamic rhythm that ebbed and flowed naturally. Emma noticed how the room seemed to come alive with energy, the participants' faces glowing with genuine happiness. The walls echoed with laughter, and even the volunteers, including Emma and her friends, couldn't contain their own giggles. Emma decided to add one final twist. She asked participants to imagine the funniest version of an everyday scenario, like a grocery store mishap, a clumsy dance in the living room, or a talking pet causing chaos. The room erupted again, this time with uncontrollable laughter. Tears of joy appeared in several participants' eyes, and some had to pause to catch their breath. The energy was electric, and Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had created a space where people could laugh freely, connect with each other, and leave feeling lighter and happier. After the laughter subsided, Emma invited participants to share their feelings. Many spoke about how the session had improved their mood, reduced stress, and made them feel more connected to the people around them. Some said they had forgotten how freeing it felt to laugh without worry. Others mentioned that the shared experience reminded them of childhood joy or fun moments they had long forgotten. Emma took careful notes, recognizing that these personal reflections were as important as the observable laughter itself. Emma also reflected on her own experience. She realized that conducting the experiment had changed her as well. She had not only studied laughter but had become a part of it, sharing in the joy she had helped create. She noticed how much more aware she had become of the little moments that bring happiness into daily life. A shared joke, a smile, a playful glance. Emma understood that laughter was not just a sound or an expression. It was a force that could connect, heal, and uplift. As the session ended, participants lingered, talking, laughing softly, and sharing their thoughts. Emma's friends joined in the conversations, laughing along and sharing their own experiences. The atmosphere was warm, friendly, and full of positivity. Emma felt a sense of pride and gratitude. She had turned a simple curiosity into a meaningful experiment that had brought real joy to people's lives. After the participants left, Emma and her friends reviewed the recordings and notes one last time. They laughed together as they watched the genuine, unrestrained reactions on camera. "It's amazing to see how much laughter can change a room," Mia said, smiling. Liam nodded. "It's more than just a funny story. It's a reminder that joy is contagious and it doesn't take much to create it," Noah added. "And the best part is seeing how people leave feeling lighter, happier, and more connected. That's the real result." Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that the experiment had achieved more than just scientific observations. It had created memorable experiences, strengthened human connections, and shown that joy could be shared freely. She decided to document everything in a final report, combining notes, observations, and reflections with videos and photos from the sessions. She wanted to inspire others to explore the power of laughter in their own lives. In the following weeks, Emma shared her findings with the university community through presentations and small workshops. People were fascinated by the results, inspired by the way laughter had transformed moods and brought strangers together. Emma encouraged everyone to try simple experiments of their own, to notice the small moments of joy in daily life, and to share laughter generously. Emma also reflected privately on the journey. She realized that laughter was a simple yet powerful tool that could make the world a happier place. From the first giggle in the library to the uncontrollable laughter in the cafe and community center, each moment had taught her something valuable about human nature. People craved connection, joy, and shared experiences. Laughter was one of the purest ways to provide that, and it had the power to transcend age, background, or circumstance. As Emma closed her final report and stored away the camera equipment, she felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The experiment had ended, but the lessons she learned and the joy she witnessed would remain with her forever. She smiled, thinking about the participants. Laughter, the way smiles had spread across faces, and the energy that had filled every room. Emma knew that she had discovered something simple yet extraordinary, the contagious, transformative, and lasting power of laughter. And in that moment, Emma made a promise to herself, to continue seeking joy, to share laughter wherever she went, and to remember that even a small spark of happiness could grow into something beautiful, touching the hearts of everyone it reached.